Welcome back. All right, let's bring in now radio legend Ray Hadley. Ray, great to see you.
Thank you, Shari. Always wonderful to come into the studio with you.
Well, you joined me the other night at the Leaders' Debate out in Parramatta. And at the time, you know, you felt, along with many others, that Dutton had won that night. He was going to be back in the game. But today we saw the news poll showing he'd slipped further behind. What do you think's going on here? Do you think it's a case that people aren't tuning in yet, that it is the school holidays, or do you think the drift is now away from Dutton?
No, I think that he's still in with a live chance. It'd be a very, very big ask to get him to majority government, as opposed to perhaps convincing some of the crossbenchers to join him. But the Prime Minister's in front as a minority Prime Minister. But I was driving home from Wentworth League Club and I was stunned by the margin, effectively. And I was also stunned that so many people hadn't made their mind up, having sat through all of that, as we all did, for an hour, and they were still undecided. I thought, well, maybe they don't want to make a decision. So I didn't take too much notice of what happened on the night with the 100 people who voted, apparently undecided voters, although I would doubt that based on some of the questioning. But I think that I'm doing this thing for the Daily Telegraph on a daily basis, the Daily Telegraph app and the dailytelegraph.com.au, about the election. And I said last Monday, after it was a pretty ordinary week really for Peter Dutton personally and for the party, I said he needs some sort of stopgap here. He needs a circuit breaker. And I suggested Jacinta Price. And I was delighted to see she was there on the weekend. I mean, I couldn't agree more with Andrew Bolt, who wrote this morning and probably said tonight as well, that there was all this mass hysteria because she happened to channel Donald Trump in a throwaway line. I mean, the big part was her performance after that, where Dutton was brave enough to say at the end of her having a bit to say, any more questions? Media, more questions. He could see that she was doing well. She's a person that the public have confidence in. She talks common sense. She's straight from the hip. And so Dutton, not many, I heard your comments earlier about Anthony Albanese and females. He's not going to give Tanya Plibersek a leg up because she's going to be a challenger if he leads a minority government. There's no doubt about that. And this rubbish about 3 terms, I mean, fair dinkum.
Well, yeah, he said that tonight. Why don't we have a look at, at what he said? So this is Albo in an interview with the Nightly tonight. Have a listen.
You're telling me if the Nightly rings me up and says, Latika, will you come out and cover the campaign in 2028? It's you that I'll be shadowing.
If I'm successful on the 3rd of May, then yeah, you'd be very welcome. I look forward, and I'll guarantee you another podcast during that campaign.
I mean, come on, Ray. 3 terms. This is the epitome of cockiness, thinking he's got this in the bag and he's going to run again.
No, look, it's remarkable that he should not understand that firstly he's got 2 elections in front of him to do that, but more importantly, he's got the Labor Party machine who'll be tearing him asunder as they did to others, and people like him will vote for other people, as he did for Kevin Rudd over others, including Julia Gillard. And look, I'm a bit compromised by Tanya Plibersek. I detest her policies. I just think that it's madness. But I like her. I've had many conversations with her as a person, and I like her. And she's I think, a very decent person. It's just that her and I'll never agree on policy matters. But the way she was treated by the Prime Minister, and I saw the stuff you played earlier about, you know, you want to elbow, you don't want to kiss people because you might get the... I mean, that's all rubbish. He brushed her. It was a brush.
Very obvious.
She was leaning in, he backed away, and then I saw that his fiancée leant in, Jodie leant in, and did what is dignified and proper, but he brushed her. And what you've also highlighted tonight is his treatment of women previously. Kimberly Kitching, he was as weak as water on that, almost as weak as he's been on the anti-Semitism as well.
I mean, he was outraged at Scott Morrison for the supposed treatment of Brittany Higgins, yet wouldn't have an inquiry into claims from his own politician. That was so grave. You know, she'd raised them with Richard Marles. Her husband spoke about them at her funeral. Everyone in the Labor Party knew about them, and he wouldn't have an inquiry.
Nah, look, I always thought that I'd never argue that Kevin Rudd and Malcolm Turnbull are worst Prime Ministers. I think this Prime Minister might have them both covered. I really do. the discussion today amongst the mates was, geez, if he does get 2 terms and then 3, what will you do? I might hibernate for the next 6 years or hide, because I think it would be disastrous for us.
But there's a lot of people ask, that question that you just said you had with your mates. A lot of people are talking about it. What will we do if Albanese and Penny Wong and Tony Burke and Chris Bowen
as we keep mentioning, it's a package deal. Even if you forgive Albanese for the sins of the past 3 years, if he's returned as Prime Minister, you get Chris Bowen, oh please, you get Tony Burke, swearing in 13,500 people so they'll vote for him. There's no other reason to have done it. And you get Penny Wong, who's been as weak as water at the UN and made decisions that have never been made in our best interest before. And so it's a package deal. It's that. Now, the other thing that happened over the weekend was, we mentioned earlier, Jacinta Price channeling Donald Trump. I mean, who cares? But people are saying that the opposition leader is too much like Trump. He's nothing like Trump. He's nothing like him at all. Mind you, there are some things Trump's done that he probably would like to do, but he won't. But
do you think this scare campaign is working, though? Because Albanese is referencing it every single day at the moment.
Well, yes, those that don't know him well would perhaps tumble for that line and that nonsense, but he's not anything like Donald Trump.